I'm Vance Bastian, here with my co-host S.A. Baz Collins for this week's Written on the Edge, Season 8, Episode 41, Entertainment Review. Baz and I will be giving our thoughts and reviews of Looking, the series and the final film, and exploring how it relates to queer life, as well as discussing its strengths and flaws. The official IMDb blurb: three best friends living in San Francisco share the nuances and complexities of contemporary gay relationships as they explore a variety of options, both in love and in life. That's a tame thing for this show.
Well, yes and no. I mean, realistically, if you look at it from a straight point of view, maybe, but for gays, it's a lot of gays complained that it was either one, too unrealistic, or two, too banal. That was a lot of the
Hmm.
complaints that were lodged against it. I had this discussion with our lovely Brad Vance, who we miss terribly, and I had this discussion with Brent Hardinger, which I will put a link up here somewhere to that conversation. Brent was one of the people that wasn't very keen on the show, and I argued it with him because I was very pro the show. So it's definitely one that was divisive in the community at the time that when it originally came out.
Mm-hmm.
However, that being said, it seems to be gaining traction with the kids now, which says to me it was maybe a bit before its time.
That's my exact take on it. I do remember when it first aired, I wasn't into it. One, I was pretty much anti-drama at that point anyway, and this is nothing but a big gay soap opera.
Vance anti-drama? What?
I know. Who am
What?
I, right?
Give me your gay
Um,
card.
but also, what is it? 2013 was when it started. 2014, somewhere right around
Mhm,
there.
mhm.
Um, that wasn't like anything I saw in my life at that
Right.
time. So it really felt like it was a slice of gay life that I had no connection to. So I didn't actually stick with it when it aired. I was one of the come back to it kind of people. And these
It's
days, I think it's a great story today. I
yeah,
can see why it wasn't well received back in the day.
yeah, and I will say what the reason why I actually put it to Vance that we should do this review. One, we hadn't done it to this point, but two, I started watching Story Worth Telling, which are two gay blokes in London who watch queer media like we do for reactions, and they started watching Looking. And the overriding comment that they kept saying over and over, just in the first episode, and they carried it over to the second, and I think they're posting the third one now, um, was how seen they felt. And that gave me a lot of comfort, knowing that I think it definitely was a generational thing in many respects, because Andrew Hay, who created it, he also did a film that kind of played along the same lines called Weekend,
Hmm.
and that takes place in Britain, and it had the same feel, the same drawn out cinema verite kind of feel to it. And I loved it. I loved looking from the very first frame to the very last. Um, I just rewatched early this morning again the final movie, and I forgot how much I love these people. And it also made me, because I'm no longer in San Francisco, it made me really homesick. And by the way, San Francisco, what the fuck is going on with you? Ever since my husband and I left, that whole fucking city is starting to fall apart. Did we keep it together? Do I need to
Did,
come back and fix shit? So, anyways,
Didn't Mari Naomi tell you that was all like hype and it's not the case?
yeah, she did, but I don't know. There are more things I'm seeing now, and I'm like, oh, maybe she's just in a good part of town. That's the only thing I'm thinking. But anyways, back to the show. I loved it because one, it knew where things were in San Francisco, and so many shows who are set there connect shit that doesn't happen. This show actually understood San Francisco, and they did a really good job of keeping everything in direct relation. So you couldn't go from like Bernal Heights or even like Potrero Hill or Russian Hill and suddenly turn a corner and you're in the Castro. And that's not how it works, people. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Um, and you know and even when you go back to Tales of the City, which we're doing a lovely reaction to over on our reactions, so make sure you go check that out. Even Tales of the City got it wrong, and I tend to think because the production crew from Channel 4 in Britain didn't really understand that San Franciscans are very proud of their very individual communities that make up all of San Francisco. So if you try blending two that don't touch, San Franciscans really get irate about that shit.
Hmm.
And the one thing I will say about Looking is that it got that right. It got the locations right. It got the whole way of looking at the Bay Area as a whole and the geography. It got it right, 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 right. And so I love the fact that San Francisco as a character was drawn perfectly.
They even got the neighborhood snobbery right, because when
Yeah.
one or the other characters had to move, the others all had comments about it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That shit is real. And I lived on Nob Hill when I first moved to San Francisco, and right below me was the Tenderloin. I knew, even moving into the city that first time, back in my 30s, I actually knew that the Tenderloin was like the part of town where you know you really didn't spend a lot of time at night, even though there was a gay bar on Christopher Street. So it's kind of like there's all these nuances to San Francisco. It's kind of like New York in that way, that you have to know where you are and what you're doing, because San Francisco is a very mystical kind of place. And that's the one thing that I commented on with Albert when we did Tales of the City. And I know I'm kind of blending these two shows, but San Francisco is a character. Now, a lot of movies are set there because it has a real mystique about it. And I think one of the things I loved about Looking was this was the more laid back San Francisco. This was not the mysterious fog in the city kind of thing. This actually let San Francisco relax and show its beauty and its grandeur without becoming a menacing portion of the story. It allowed the characters to show how the city influences their life and how they live their lives, but it was not the driving force. It kind of was just this beautiful backdrop that the story played against. So I love that. I love the way that Andrew Hay was so respectful of the city and its cultures and its communities. I love the fact that the actors all acquitted themselves beautifully. It was wonderfully cast. And can I just say, Lauren Weedman is a comedic goddess. Doris, by
Doris.
far and away, was my absolute favorite character. Anything she said, and I was on the floor screaming with laughter. She is the most deadpan, dry wit, but it just
Hmm.
so absolutely queer ally supportive
Oh yeah.
that it's phenomenal. I just love her. I love her, love her, love her.
She's also the grounding character for all of them. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's
The
she's the one
mother.
point, yeah, the mother, the one point of reality that points out why what they're doing is harmful, basically. But the actress pulls that off so
Mm-hmm.
wonderfully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the conversations. I love the dynamics. I love the way that, and another thing that it got right, and only if you live in San Francisco you understand this to this degree. This is why I think a lot of people didn't really identify with it, because they don't understand how San Francisco works. But those permutations of relationships that overlap, and people dating people that other people have dated, and that is quintessentially San Francisco. Tales of the City did the same thing. People don't, in order to understand this show, you have to just trust that they got that right, because they did. All of these permutations. Oh, Dom actually hooked up with Patty way back in the beginning before the series officially starts, but it's in their history. Now they're just best friends. All of those little permutations, those little comminglings and crossing back and forth. The story and with Richie, which of course Richie is dear to my heart. I love that character because I identify with him so much. And I love to see that he got to a place where he was looking at happiness for the first time, and that Patty actually had the courage enough to step up into that role that he knew he wanted all along, but was too scared to approach it. And that's one thing I think Looking does really well, is that it shows our fears and how our fears can drive us to do crazy motherfucking things that we probably wouldn't do. And that it kind of highlights how fear is a driver for a lot of the chaos that goes on in our lives. And that's collectively, like whether you're gay, straight, or what have you across the spectrum, this show really understands fear and really pushes its characters into those uncomfortable situations that we all kind of know either we went through or we have friends who might have gone through something like that. So that's one of the reasons why I loved it and why I still promote it to this day. You?
And I would love to point out, just following up on your fear comment, it is so well written. You don't realize that's a driving force for every single character until you're way done watching it and you're thinking back on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
how well it is written and portrayed and acted. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a reason that this has been nominated for so many. I looked at the list on Wikipedia and my jaw hit the floor. It's been nominated for so many more awards than I would have expected.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, to be honest, I prefer looking to even queer as folk because I see looking as a much more realistic. I thought Queer as Folk was audacious. I thought it definitely tried to represent a slice of queer life that was the clubbing scene and with a
Hmm.
little bit of side stories here and there. But I just always thought it was too much of a what's the word, where they kind of prop it up and they just have these sequences because they know it will create drama. Whereas in looking, it all felt very organic to me. And that's one of the reasons why I really liked its writing style and I liked the onion skinning of the characters. And I liked that the flaws could remain flaws and nobody had to fix everything with a beautiful little bow. We just learned to cope. We learned to either work around it, figure out how to diffuse it, or, so there were all these conversations that were being had about how to deal with their fears and their flaws. And that's one of the things I also liked about the writing. So,
Hmm.
your
Numbers?
numbers?
Mine are almost all fives. I gave production quality and art direction costuming fours only because they didn't need to be big and bold in this story. The focus was on the story and the characters. And so everything else, though, solid five. This is very good storytelling. Much better seen from today's lens than I think the lens of 2013.
Yeah, and it's interesting how much difference a few years makes. It
Hmm.
really is.
Hmm.
So yeah, minor fives across the board, primarily because I think when they had the chance to do the final movie, it really gave them an opportunity to put the final brushstrokes on these characters, and you got to see that they grew into, in fact, Augustine for the first part of the movie really laments that he and Patty went up on this rock up in the side of San Francisco that overlooks the bay that they did previously, 10 years previously, when they were first starting in college. And he was revisiting what they thought about themselves and where they think they'd be 10 years from now. And then discovering 10 years later, they were nowhere near where they thought they would be, where their ideals and dreams were going to take them. And that's life. That's how life works. But if we don't have those dreams, you don't strive for anything. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. So um, I loved that fact that it allows us to see all of that, and all of these characters had a resolution that works, but it's not a final resolution. You can see these lives continuing. This was not a nice, neat, pretty bow. This was a, we're really going to work at this. We really want this to happen for us. We are all going to be supportive of each other, and we may fuck it up, but that's life. And that's what I like most about it. And we will be reacting to it. I've already told
Nice.
Al.
Nice. Has he seen it yet?
No, he
Nice.
hasn't seen many gay things. So a lot of what I show him is really brand new to him, which is what I love about our reactions.
That's what's
I have,
beautiful
in
about
fact,
it.
somebody commented on Tales of the City. They noticed that 90% of it was me just smirking, going, and Albert go, oh my God, oh wow, it's really funny because the person that commented said, he goes, I found myself smirking like you, waiting for Albert to react to the thing I knew was coming. And when
Nice.
you got that, that's magic, man.
Nice. I love it. All right, folks. Written on the Edge is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com. If you enjoy learning about new artists or hearing our thoughts on entertainment media, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. Tune in Friday for our interview with Rick Herrick, and tune in next week for your Queer Media Fix.
Also, check out Rote Reactions for the month of October because we will be doing Interview with the Vampire, the series, for Halloween.
Nice.
Bye now.
And we'll cut there.
Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.